It's about 7:30 p.m. on Sunday, July 16th, 2023. We had a big rainstorm come through. Looks like it dropped somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 inch of rain. Just looking at the buckets that were dry before the rain came. So, got a little bit of water. And we're almost at the duck pond. We'll be at the duck pond tomorrow morning. Look at this grass here. I don't know what kind of grass this is, but it's so thick. The cows are eating it like mad too. I can see in the old pasture it's all cut. So, in this cell, the cows have that big tree to take shelter behind. They also still have access to the chicken coop area. And there's a lot of manure down there. I can tell they're taking shelter there. There's Blue's calf. The bull calf. Looks like there's a different color underneath that white. So, anyway. There's not much to report. It's about 76 degrees. The humidity is like 80%. So even though I'm not really hot, I am sweaty and uncomfortable. It's kind of weird having the house cool without the air conditioner running. You can see that I've already taken quite a few bites out of the grass here. So, yeah. Oh, when I went to feed the ducks, the Rowan ducks were like all the way over, let me point to it, all the way over there. They're quacking and coming back to the brush. I couldn't see them because the brush was so tall. Then they finally emerged and at the pond started eating. Look at you. Number 6. You gonna give me a calf next year, number 6? She's a heifer. She's over a year old. I think like a year and a half or something like that. The 8th cow that was born on my land, because I missed the first 2. So there's Yellow and her calf. Is that a bull calf? No, that's a calf. That's a cow calf. Heifer. Heifer. Look at this guy in the sun, like his coat like glows orange on the ridge there on his back. You know, his horns are coming out quick. That's a beautiful sight to behold. So this is north of the back 20. I'll kind of show you what's going on here. So we have there's a pond there, obviously. The people that own this, they treat this more as a nature preserve. I think they mow it maybe once or twice a year just to keep the weeds down, but they don't want cows back here. And I do not mind obliging them. And then back behind that fence is the back 20. So my goal is to make the back 20 look better than this. If my cows can do that, then I imagine my neighbor would say like, yeah, bring the cows into the nature preserve. You know, there's lots of evidence that cows do help preserve nature. The natural beauty, especially in the Great Plains here. Cows are critical to growing grass. If you just plant the grass and don't have anything to eat the grass, any ruminants, the grass will just die. It'll clump up and die. But when the ruminants come through and trample it and shred it, it encourages the grass to grow thick and strong. Makes it the dominant species. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Cows are necessary to preserving nature. There's a reason why humans have been using cows for all of recorded history. Cows, sheep, and goats, the ruminants. And something else, I keep harping on this, but this is important to understand, is I'm not standing on prime farmland here. You probably couldn't plant cotton or anything else here and make any money at it, even if you put all the nutrients in the soil that you can buy. This is farmland that's next to cotton land, but it's not farmland that can be used as cotton land. That's a big difference. They do cotton in this area, but not here, not on this particular piece of land. So when we put cows in pastures, sometimes they use cows to kind of clean up cornfields and stuff like that, to go through and, eat what's left over. But the land that's dedicated to cows is all marginal farmland that wouldn't be used otherwise. Now, my hope and my estimation is that after several years of running cows through here, the soil layer will build up strong enough that you'll be able to plant like wheat and corn and things like that and have it grow well, right? But as it is right now, it's barely good enough to grow grass. So that's something I think people need. Spread the message on that, guys. Let people know that cows are not using farmland. They're building farmland if they're managed properly. So nature has a way of doing things, and cows are part of that way. So cows and sheep and other ruminants. I think, one of the things that I was told, I don't think I was told this directly, but I kind of figured out, was that like where the Saharan desert is, there used to be a big civilization there. It used to be green jungle and beautiful area. And so I used to think as a kid that, humans came in and they overfarmed or they did something, and now it's a desert, right? And that may be true. That may be true. But I think what really happened was they were building up the farm layer of soil using agriculture. And so really what they were doing was they were keeping it from turning into a desert. And the whole reason it was not a desert was because humans were there. And then once the humans stopped doing those things, once they stopped farming and stopped raising cattle and animals on the land, why then nature took its course and it turned into a desert. That's what I think it probably happened. That's the reality of what happened. Maybe there was a big war or something, or maybe the people decided to leave for some reason. Maybe some kind of plague wiped out the population. They couldn't do the agriculture anymore. But that's what I suppose happened nowadays, is that the absence of agriculture creates wastelands. So that's my thought, my completely unscientific thought. I don't know how you test that without doing some large-scale experiments that can destroy entire continents. Grass here is so thick and amazing. The ground is mushy and wet, but it's pretty nice. So yeah, agriculture. So like in Denmark, or no, it's in Ireland, I think, they want to kill 20,000 cows, dairy cows, to save the environment. I think what you'll find in Ireland is if you start killing the cows, Ireland will turn into a desert. They'll destroy the environment by doing that. Another thing that they don't talk about, they don't want you to hear about, is that the reason why people die due to climate is not because of the warm weather. It's because of the cold weather. More people die from cold than die from warm. And if the temperature of the planet were increasing, that would save a great number of lives. And in fact, if you wanted to save a bunch of lives from the climate, then the best thing you can do is make energy cheap and available to everybody, so that poor people can keep their homes warm through the winter. Because if they were able to do that, we would save lives. People aren't talking specifics about how the planet's dying or how we're killing people through our environmental policies. Because when you dig into the specifics, it's clear that everything they want to do will cause mass death and destruction and devastation. Whereas if we just keep doing what our ancestors did, everything will keep going. If we keep raising animals, planting fields, and looking at the soil and how can we make it healthier. That's how we're going to save lives, rather than trying to arbitrarily make the price of energy too high for poor people to warm themselves in winter. You know, and that's the real tragedy, is we know how to make cheap, affordable energy. People say, oh, nuclear is so expensive. The reason why it's expensive is because it's over-regulated. The level of regulation in the nuclear industry is ridiculous. Of all the ways to create energy, I bet you solar panels have killed more people than nuclear power has. You know, even though solar panels are somewhat new and have never been deployed large scale. I bet in absolute numbers, more people died from solar panels. Died mining the materials, died transporting the materials, died refining the materials, died in the factories that make those solar panels than have ever died in the nuclear industry. So I think from a policy perspective, the government should just get out of the way. Let people figure it out. Stop over-regulating things like nuclear energy. Like, I was in Arkansas, and a gentleman there, he said he worked at the nuclear power plant down the river. And he said the biggest threat is that nuclear power plant's going to explode. And I said, how is it going to explode? He goes, like a nuclear bomb. And I looked at him and I said, what? And he says, well, there's nuclear material in there. It could, you know, fuse together or break apart and cause all this energy release. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, how, like, do you even know how a nuclear bomb is built? You know, first of all, the stuff that's inside a nuclear reactor cannot explode like a nuclear weapon. It's impossible. You need a very special type of nuclear reactor to produce the materials needed to build a bomb in the first place. And then you need a special process to isolate those materials so you can get the level of purity that's necessary. It's not going to happen at random chance in a nuclear reactor. Not in a million years. Not in a billion years. Not in the lifetime of this universe. It's just impossible. And so just the utter ridiculousness of their ideas about, like, nuclear is going to explode and wipe out this entire area. Worst case, we've already had worst case happen. Worst case is Chernobyl. We build a nuclear reactor without any shielding whatsoever. We manage it incorrectly and cause it to go into a meltdown. And in the process of the meltdown, there's an explosion that scatters the nuclear material all over the place. That's the worst case. And then we had what happened at Fukushima. What happened at Fukushima was the power went out, and their generators weren't able to start because they put them at ground level rather than top of the place. And so they weren't able to move the water around. And so water pressure built up until it exploded, right? The water pressure built up until it exploded. All because they couldn't activate pumps, right? Well, there's newer technology that doesn't require generators to move the water around, that have safety relief valves and everything like that, that don't, like, vent into the atmosphere. And even in Fukushima, like, the level of ridiculousness people have, the Korean people, for instance, my wife's Korean and we follow the Korean news sometimes, they were all concerned about radiation in ocean fish and how people were able to detect Fukushima radiation in San Francisco. They don't realize that they're detecting, like, these tiny, minuscule amounts that don't even register at human scale. You know, the amount of additional radiation that anybody in the entire world can possibly receive from Fukushima, even if you moved back there, I imagine, if you lived right next to the reactor where it exploded, the level of additional radiation doesn't even match the amount of radiation you're getting every day, just from living on this earth. Not just from the sky, but from the things you eat every day. You know, some of the stuff that you eat is radioactive. The reason why we can detect it is because we have instruments that are so sensitive and that the particles are very easy to detect. It's not that hard to build a machine that can detect, you know, a single nuclear reaction. And when you're dealing with, you know, orders of magnitude of moles, right, 10 to the 23, and one of those particles decays, and you can register that and count it, you know, like, yeah, if you have super fine instruments that can measure things like that, that's pretty amazing. And yes, we did notice that there was a slight increase in the amount of nuclear material in the fish, a very slight increase, barely noticeable, right? It's just ridiculous, the amount of misinformation there's about nuclear reactors. So I would feel perfectly comfortable living next to a nuclear reactor. It's one of the careers that I consider doing. The only reason I didn't go into it was because of all the stupidity that people have about nuclear reactors. Truly is a miracle. It can save the earth. It can save the planet. If you're concerned about like pollution, like actual pollution, stuff that actually hurts the environment, then nuclear is the way to go. 100%. Not solar, not wind. Those two things are destroying the environment. Solar is not what you think it is. And really, the best use of sunlight is to give it to the plants. Let the plants turn it into sugars and let the animals eat the plants. And then we eat the animals. That's the best use for solar power, I think. The whole earth should be green, you know. The ocean does a massive job converting sunlight into oxygen. Well, not directly into oxygen, but converting carbon dioxide into oxygen in the ocean. Along with the massive forests, which, you know, don't even compare to what the ocean's doing, but still, you know. And that's what we need more of. We need more plant life on this earth. We don't need more machines. We don't need windmills. We don't need turbines. We don't need solar panels, you know. And the answers are all out here, you know. It's not going to be found in a textbook. So the answers to hunger, the answers to all the psychological problems of the earth. I think if people need to be out in the wilderness, out in the farms, that there's a psychological benefit to that. I wonder how many problems in the family would be eliminated if people just had farms. And they could transfer those farms to their kids, you know, and the kids knew that this was the way to live. There's no secret recipe to avoid work. You know, if you choose to do a different profession, it'll be even more work and pay less. That's the message we should be sending to our young kids, you know. Yep, life on a computer is not life. That fake kind of living will never substitute for the real thing. And all these human institutions we built up to isolate ourselves from reality, you know, of course it's going to have an effect on your psyche, you know. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. Guys, have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.